Welcome to Essentials of Acute Care. I am Dr. Sunil Garg, and today we will understand BNP and anti-proBNP in critical care setting. We will also discuss interpretation of these peptides in the context of critical care setting. These peptides are quantitative marker. It means it tells the extent of the problem. The more severe the disease, the higher the level will be of these peptides. In addition to various cardiac diseases, its levels are elevated in pulmonary hypertension and notably in renal insufficiency, sepsis, and trauma patients. Now we will go into somewhat more details of these peptides. BNP is 32 amino acid structure while proBNP is 76 amino acid structure. They are released from the ventricular myocardium as a proBNP molecule. The release of these peptides occurs in response to volume and/or pressure overload and subsequent myocardial stretch. They work as natriuretic, diuretic, and also causes vasodilation, so they work as an antihypertensive. In terms of the activity of these compounds, out of these two, only BNP is biologically active while proBNP is biologically inactive. The normal value of BNP is less than 100 picrogram per ml, while for anti-proBNP it is less than 300. Anti-proBNP elevates as the age increases in accordance with GFR. It means with the advancement of the age, as the GFR decreases, the value of anti-proBNP will increase. Here it is important to remember that this is not applicable to value of BNP. These peptides are the marker of elevated ventricular filling pressure. It means as the ventricular filling pressure will increase, the level of these peptides will increase. These are the quantitative markers of severity of ventricular filling pressure. In terms of clearance or the metabolism of these peptides, anti-proBNP primarily clears through the renal mechanism while the BNP clears through the endopeptidase. So when we are making any interpretation of result of these peptides, we have to see whether we are evaluating BNP or anti-proBNP. Though these peptides are quite similar, they have some obvious differences. We also have to look into whether the patient has any confounding factor or the comorbidities which can impact the interpretation, like whether the patient has any sepsis, trauma, renal insufficiency, or any obesity. Here we will understand the general principle of BNP result interpretation. If the patient has BNP level less than 100 picogram per ml and presents with acute dyspnea, it has 90% negative predictive value for the diagnosis of congestive heart failure. Similarly, if the same patient who presents with acute dyspnea and has BNP value of more than 500, it carries 90% positive predictive value for the diagnosis of congestive heart failure. If the level falls between 100 and 500, in addition to congestive heart failure, also consider the possibility of left ventricular dysfunction, effects of renal insufficiency, or right ventricular dysfunction secondary to cor pulmonale. It can be there in acute pulmonary embolism. But remember, if clinical suspicion for congestive failure is high and peptide levels are lower than expected, always consider the possibility of fresh pulmonary edema, or it could be the result of obesity, or it could be due to heart failure due to causes upstream from the left ventricle, like it could be mitral stenosis, or it could be restrictive cardiomyopathy or constrictive pericarditis. Always read the level of BNP in conjunction with the clinical decision making about treatment and disposition of patient. Now we understand how to make interpretation of anti-proBNP results. While ruling out the diagnosis of congestive heart failure in those patients who present with acute dyspnea, the relevance of anti-proBNP is as much as of BNP. But while confirming the diagnosis of congestive heart failure in those patients who present with the acute dyspnea, While using anti-proBNP, it is important to remember 2 points. Firstly, the levels of the anti-proBNP varies with the age. And secondly, the utility of anti-proBNP as a diagnostic marker in such patients is limited in the presence of renal insufficiency. Now we see how these peptides are affected by renal insufficiency. The levels of both increase in the presence of renal insufficiency, but the rise of anti-proBNP is more than the BNP, and the level of anti-proBNP is quite unpredictable if GFR is less than 60 ml. So, the utility of anti-proBNP for confirmation of diagnosis of congestive heart failure in this situation is limited. The lower cutoff to rule out congestive heart failure in appropriate clinical setting is 200 picogram per ml for BNP instead of 100 in the presence of renal insufficiency. Here, it is important to understand that renal insufficiency and age-related decline in renal functions are two separate issues. While one is pathological, other is not. Age-related decline in renal function affect only anti-proBNP, and BNP cutoff values remain same for all ages. How these peptide levels are affected by obesity? Low levels of both peptides are seen in patients with BMI more than 30. Suspect congestive heart failure in appropriate clinical settings even when the levels are below cutoff value. And serial determinations are likely to be useful if you suspect the CHF clinically in obese patient. As we have seen the diagnostic utility of these peptides in the diagnosis of congestive heart failure, now we will understand the utility of these peptides as a prognostic marker. These peptides are independent predictors of mortality in congestive heart failure, especially in chronic condition when the level of these peptides increases or persistently elevated in spite of the treatment, or if there is failure to decrease levels with the treatment in the acute condition. Additionally, in patients with the acute coronary syndrome, it is useful for the risk stratification along with the other markers like troponin. In terms of utility of these peptides in hospitalized or acutely ill patients, there are two class 1 recommendations. One is regarding diagnosis and other is regarding prognosis. Diagnosis of the acute decompensated heart failure: when the diagnosis is uncertain, you can use these peptides. And in terms of prognosis, it establishes the prognosis or disease severity of acutely decompensated heart failure in conjunction with troponin. There are few conditions where it can be used in intensive care unit. BNP may be useful in differential diagnosis of hypoxic respiratory failure in the ICU, where you need to differentiate between the cardiogenic versus non-cardiogenic pulmonary edema. It should be used early in the stage of differentiation, and it should be used in the absence of renal insufficiency. It also predicts death in severe sepsis and septic shock, as levels of these peptides are found to be higher in the non-survivors than survivors. It also helps in deciding timing of the extubation in patients undergoing weaning from the mechanical ventilation and deciding whether any alteration or intensification in therapy is required for successful weaning. Here it is important to remember that it cannot differentiate between the different shock condition, whether it is cardiogenic or it is septic shock, it cannot differentiate. To summarize, these peptides are akin to D-dimer, as a normal D-dimer has high negative predictive value to rule out venous thromboembolism. Normal level of these peptides excludes the diagnosis of heart failure. Increased levels of these peptides are not specific for the heart failure in ICU setting, so it cannot be used alone to make the diagnosis. Very high level of these peptides in a patient with breathlessness, though highly suggestive of heart failure, but it cannot confirm heart failure in ICU setting. In critically ill patients, they do not provide useful cardiac specific information since sepsis, trauma, and CHF can result in similar BNP rise. Analyze these peptide levels in clinical context While looking on type of assay, it means whether you are doing BNP or anti-proBNP. Patient's age as the level of anti-proBNP is affected by patient's age and renal insufficiency and patient's BMI. It is also very important to note that levels should not be measured on daily basis. Thanks for watching the video. If you have any concern or any comment, you can write it to me in the comment section box. Once again, thanks for watching the video.